Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. It's Tech Talk time, which is the weekly podcast that we do, kind of talking about all things kind of War Thunder, but also your comments and kind of going through your ideas and all of the different things that are going on. I think that is one of the I think that's probably one of my favorite times of the week, is kind of sitting down and going through all this stuff. And the thing we're going to be doing today is, first of all, spading the MX-10P and the TPK 641, and that's just because it's easy to play while chatting. And also, the event has come nearly to the end, the good old 292. We're on the last star now, last mark of distinction, so that's good, all in the hood. And hopefully it's been alright for you guys. Hopefully you've got through it not too badly. Coupon upgrade itself, I mean, I really didn't try that hard on this event, and I know that sounds silly, but you gotta understand everybody has different standards, right? So the fact that I got here, like, is impressive compared to just like doing the stars themselves. But yeah, we're on the last mark, so should be quite nice. Let me know, what you thought about this event. Obviously, we're going straight into another one in a few days, so no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to go through the comments, and if you have a general thing you want to chat about, or if you have a general thing you want to go through, obviously make sure to stick it in the comments for next week, as you always do. So nice and cool. Nice to see you, Rockline. Hopefully you're doing all right. Hopefully life's good. You're doing well. Right, so let's get into it. We obviously have Karam-chan, who did the good old timestamps. So thank you once again to Karam-chan for doing that. Always a big positive at the end of the day when it comes to that stuff. One thing I will say is I just saw one of the questions. I'm very surprised we haven't seen any dev blogs yet, but we'll see. We'll see what kind of goes on. Am I good? Yeah, I feel alright. Like, life's okay. A little bit tired, but that's alright. Can't be mad, overall. Got a workout in and make some breakfast, and now just kind of chilling, so hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully everything's alright. Yeah, War Thunder's super fun. It's a great little game. So we have Toshio to start with. Bit of an odd question. Do you have any favorite War Thunder conspiracies? One that turned out false and one that turned out true. I'm not sure if Chinese Giga Chad and the War Thunder Player Union count, but those were a wild ride. Well, the Chinese Giga Chad did exist. Like, there was literally a dude who did all that stuff. The Player Union stuff, I mean, that obviously all went through, but yeah, it was a bit ridiculous when you think about it. But at the same time, they were actually there. I mean, the biggest one is all the bias claims. The fact that the game is coded in a way to favor certain nations compared to others. That's always a fantastic time and a fantastic thing to go through, especially since it all is just straight up coded in either people wanting to favor a specific nation or people getting annoyed facing another nation. That's always really annoying. I think Gaijin funding terrorists is probably the biggest ridiculous conspiracy that was just, it's not true at all. Like like when you come to it, it's just it was a straight up hit piece that was like written about like the whole thing. And so if you don't know that, by the way, I'll go through it. The other ones, just the general, like the general ones, like when it comes to how the game works and how the whole wanting people to suffer kind of thing and all these different things. Like the other one was also the fact that War Thunder, basically the one that we actually saw a few weeks ago, which was hilarious, was how Gaijin and Wargaming are the same company, and how it's both of the games were set up in a way so it was going to be what do you call it, a fake competition between the two. So that was an interesting wild ride to go through too. Hey Manuel, nice to see you, man. But yeah, there's been a bunch of random ones. when it comes to War Thunder. Mostly once again, people just having grievances on how the game works and not fitting how they want the game to work, right? Like that really is, 90% of how it goes. But yeah, I think my favorite one is probably the Gaijin Funds terrorist ones. So just to kind of let you know about that and how that happened. So obviously War Thunder does marketing because they're a company who relies on, eyes and also social media and all of these different things. And what they've done for the longest time is they sponsor YouTubers, right? They've sponsored a shit ton of them over the years. They sponsored PewDiePie, if you remember. I think they've done Mr. Beast, and they've basically just done everybody, right? And the way that usually this works, I mean, it depends on the situation, but either a company goes to like a ad company and goes, hey, so we need these deliverables done. Are you able to do them? And we want to go after this specific group, right? Now, this can actually be done at the company, or is done by the kind of place itself or whatever. Oh, this thing does not have good elevation. So what ends up happening a lot of the time is you'll have a company that'll turn around and they'll be like, okay, we want to target this demographic, and then the ad agency will pick specific areas to look at and go, okay, well, this is how we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do that. And no one really has an issue with this. This is what's happened forever in terms of just all advertising. You have like a middleman which deals with this stuff. Now, Gaijin actually have a ton of in-house people who deal with like marketing as well. Some of the YouTubers that got hired on in War Thunder, like all the streamers who got hired on, a few years ago, don't actually work in the content program anymore. They actually now work in marketing. So, that's kind of just how it goes. Now, the interesting thing about that is there was a YouTuber who basically did a YouTube channel kind of testing out weapons, right? And he did this in Eastern Europe, and he did it in certain areas which right now are at war, mainly in the Donbass, right? Hey, Special Donkey, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Now, this guy was just, I mean, the best way I would describe him is he was like the Eastern European FPS Russia. He had like a test area. He would show a bunch of like random equipment and then go, hey, let's go blow it up. Right? let's go batter everything about. And there was an article that was written after the sponsorship went through, and like weeks or months later, there was this article that was written basically accusing Gaijin of funding terrorists. And it was because of this guy. Now, here was the pattern, right? So Gaijin paid for the sponsorship for this guy, and he put like the War Thunder logo on like some cement blocks on his firing range while he was like testing equipment, right? In other videos, he had other pieces of military equipment that he was showing people and how it all worked and how it all looked at. Now, it was decided, because of the fact that he was in that area, and because of the fact that supposedly he could not get this equipment in any other way, that he was dealing with the separatist movements in the Donetsk region. Basically, the guys who were fighting Ukraine since, when was it, 2014 or 2012, around that time. It was decided that he could only get this equipment from that point. And this meant that people were saying, okay, so because this guy was given money by Gaijin, supposedly, right, that means that he has to have bought this equipment off this set of rebels groups, which are terrorists. Therefore, Gaijin is funding terrorism. Now, let's just sit down and go through this, right? Because this is like somebody going to a bank, getting a loan to, I don't know, do whatever you want with. And then the person sits down, buys some sandwiches, buys this, buys that, and then decides to buy a gun and shoot somebody, right? You don't blame the bank for the guy shooting somebody. Like, you don't have like those layers, or you should have those layers of kind of, away, because people should be down to their own actions. So even if all of this is true, which after I looked into it for like, I don't know. I looked into it for like a month trying to like work out all this shit. And I just couldn't find any links to anything apart from the fact that people said this can't happen unless this is happening. And it's like, I really don't like that reasoning. So at the end of the day, it was just a hit job. But you still get those people who sit around and say that stuff. Where, the whole like Gaijin funds terrorist things, or, Gaijin is this, or Gaijin is that. And it's usually when you get somebody who's disgruntled and they're pissed off, and then they just start going on and saying the same shit over and over and over again that they usually do, right? So that one was a bit nuts. And also at the same time, the moment that the article got posted and all of that, I don't think Gaijin put out a statement, but they asked the guy to take down the video, and I believe the actual reason it happened, at least from one of the volunteers who works for Gaijin, which of course you can't be trusted ever when it comes to their information, because a lot of them just straight up lie anyway. It was a ad agency that had picked the specific channel since they thought it was close, to obviously the War Thunder content. So, because it involved military stuff and just didn't do any background check. So yeah, that was a fun time. Always enjoyable at the end of the day. That was a couple of years ago now. There's been many of them over the years, Just many ridiculous things. I think the conspiracy theory of everybody believing the same thing as well, like that, but that's just not conspiracy theory, that's just confirmation bias. I'm really happy that over like the last few years, we've been able to like actually have proper conversations about this stuff, because a lot of the great thing about having like different, not just areas of the community, but one of the big positives about Discord, and it isn't really talked about that much, but so a lot of people talk about how Discord and stuff isolates communities, right? Because you have a specific Discord, all the people go in there, and then they don't really branch out, and then you have each community has like their little area, right? And that's true, And a lot of people talk about this as bad because you have situations where like a bunch of people end up what's the word? Kind of stuck in that area. But you know what's great about having that? It also means that everybody else doesn't have to listen to the crazy people, and they can just be crazy together. It's been wonderful. So what ends up happening is all of the like crazy people who used to be on like the forums or the Reddit or in areas like that, they all just hang out together in these little discords and all just say the crazy stuff to each other. It's great, because then you just don't have to hear them. And every so often there's like a wacko who turns up who's maybe new, and then you have a look at his stuff and it's like, oh well, he's just saying all the same things everyone else says. But yeah, sometimes isolation is a positive, especially if it's chosen. Hey Zeppaluzziotto, nice to see you. Life's good, doing alright. Got a bit of a workout in, which was good. And also, just kind of chilling. Playing some AMX, Tempe. Getting a bunch of scouts off and, doing the tech talk. Hopefully you're well. Then we have Keegan Gallop. Yep. Thanks for answering my comment about the 2-3 Thor. As we get close to Deadlock season, what's something you personally want from the first update? Well, I'm kind of surprised we haven't had any Deadlocks yet. You know, we haven't, even for the, what's it called? Even for the, even for the, what's the vehicle called? Like the Jaguar. Like they announced the event and not the vehicle. Like when it came to its Deadlock. I wonder if they're deciding to do something different this year. Because they are modifying a bunch of different stuff. But yeah, the basic thing is, I personally would like to see some kind of mid-tier American SPAA. Like, it might be finally time to add that chaffee with, like, a bunch of, might be time to add that chaffee, which has a bunch of, like, 20 millimeters or 50 cals on it. Or just some, you know, just some kind of truck with kind of a, like, a minigun on it or something like that. I think that's probably the best way to go. Would be quite good. We'll be getting a 2-week break from War Thunder. Not gonna go for the Jaguar. That's fine. There's some really nice bundles on Fanatical right now. So there's a bunch of cool stuff to play. Hey Tonnet, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. So yeah, it's I think something like that would be quite nice. Just to kind of, like, last year they did a massive effort into trying to get a bunch of those vehicles into the game for different nations. Like, we're playing one of them right now, right? Like the MX-10P and then the other vehicle. So for me, stuff like that's super important because, you know, they fill lineups, which is good. So yeah, hopefully they can continue that with America, because America's pretty much the only nation now without that. And you know, it kind of sucks that that's the case. Hopefully they can do something about it. I feel like I should have hit that guy a little bit more. Bunch of hit. What was that End War American SPA with the bolter at 20? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, stuff like that would be good. Maybe they could add a few more. Maybe they could make it so every nation has at least one type of each vehicle. Yeah, like, sorry. The Jaguar is going to be ranked 7. They put it in well, not Deadblog, but the news article. I think I would like, you know, stuff like the IS-3 for Israel. Some TDs and stuff for different nations. Some kind of TD mechanic would be nice too. Okay. Don't really know how I missed that. Ubisoft publisher sale on Steam? Yeah, instead of buying Skull and Bones, you can literally just buy Assassin's Creed Black Flag and have a much better experience. In your opinion, will they start fixing the Italian tech trees since it's more holes than Gruya trees? I think the major issue with the Italian tech tree is the fact that Italy had major gaps in their technological progression. So the way that you fix it is by adding other nations to it, which takes more time. But they definitely went a long way to doing it last year with the additions of Hungary. And hopefully we can get Romania soon. Italy will become the pan-European tech tree. Then we have OCS. Yeah. Guy's going down. Hi Tech, how do you feel about mechanics that could change the maps visually? So for example, after multiple vehicles traversing the same route, grassland runs into mud, etc., and bombs, as well as tank shells creating a thin fog. I'm fine with stuff like that. Like, I generally think that was, you know, the idea when they did like the track stuff so many years ago. The issue I remember as always with things like that is performance of the game, you know? Like the performance of the game is really rough at this time when it comes to like dealing with stuff like that, because it means that when they added in the track stuff, when they did like the destructible environment and stuff, it's one of the things that they talked about quite a lot. Like the fact that a lot of this stuff takes a metric amount of not effort but performance from the user. One of the things they're super into as kind of a company is trying to make things as like to work as best as possible in terms of like performance and in terms of making the game playable for as many people. And I think that's kind of commendable, even if you have to kind of, make it a little bit, not worse. Worse is not the word, but make it a little bit less, intense or heavy, Do you think they'll add this one American SPA with the 30mm? Yeah, but that doesn't really fix the issue of the American AA line. That just adds another vehicle that'll lose to the Sergeant York. Also, I really want more vehicle customization opposed to just 4 slots. I want to add toolboxes, fuel tanks, barrel decorations, and custom camos, like being able to take a base color and add Gaijin created vinyl patterns and add them how I like. Yeah, I don't see why not. But also at the same time, like the big thing is, at least with those types of things, in War Thunder, you have access to user skins, right? And I think what would be a better thing is if console players got user skins, so then we could focus on doing those. At least to me, that makes the most sense, right? So why not? Like I think that would definitely be the way to go with those things. But no, pretty much they add in a metric ton of graphical updates pretty much every update, like every major update. And the only reason why they would ever not add something is performance. For them, like, they've talked about the realistic nature of how the game looks and how it's super important to them. So they're gonna, they're gonna try their best to make it look really nice. Good morning, Multigrade. Nice to see you. Well, it's very important, the console side of things, Everybody should be equal in that way. Alright, so we have Jimmy. If you're interested in grand strategy games, Terra Invicta is one I can recommend. There's an interesting premise of various governments and factions acting in response to an impeding alien invasion. That sounds pretty cool. So basically you all have to like work together, trying to make sure that your little area is good and everyone else is like vying for that. That's pretty cool. The Raptor FSA would bridge the gap? Sure, why not? Go crazy. But the cool thing, at least for me, in terms of grand strategy games, is the fact that you can get lost in them, right? Like you can like hyper focus on one little thing, or you can, not focus at all on that and then just focus on the big stuff. Or you can, manipulate the rules to try and do specific things. Like, oh, sorry, goddamn. Bryce, who, hangs out on the Twitch channel sometimes, and also, I've known for many years. He plays Crusader Kings a lot and Hoi 4 and things like that, and he achievement hunts. So whenever they bring out like a new DLC or whenever they bring out like a new faction, what he does is he literally tries to complete the achievements that they put out for it. So that's how he like has a bit of fun with it, which I've always thought is pretty cool. Now, the thing, at least for me, with grand strategies is, I pretty much just like to not really do a lot of the diplomatic stuff, but just more the military stuff. That's just because, in large stuff like that, nowadays I like to turn my brain off and just create like massive things and then go forward with them. I've really enjoyed doing a bunch of kind of smaller games which are RTS focused around that idea too. Like Iron Harvest has kind of like a World War mode, or it's very similar to Risk, but you have, of course, like Iron Harvest as the setup, right? And it's actually really cool. I've enjoyed it a ton, so I would hope to do more stuff like that. But now the big issue for Grand Strategies is time. If I could find more time in my days, which I'm trying to actually, the new schedule will be in next week, so that'll be really fun, and we should have more time. We should have more time in the day to be able to do things, which is nice. The radar mode that you use really depends on who you're fighting and where they are. Mainly where they are. Right, so then we have BADS. Running for the Philippine Army, Air Force, and Navy. It's a mix of US, German, Italian, South American lineups. Either way, if it's going to be a sub-tree or a new one, it won't matter. It's complicated either way. Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing about the Philippines, it should definitely be a sub-tree of whatever nation. As I said before, like in the last tech talk, there's this idea that, you know, you can't have a sub-tree full of different you can't have a sub-tree full of like different nations' vehicles. Well, that's literally what all of the sub-trees basically are, apart from apart from South Africa, right? Like Finland has like 3 or 4 different nations' vehicles in it. Same with Hungary. I don't see why other ones couldn't be like that too. It just seems odd to me. Like, why would you want to limit these things? So yeah, they could put it in all of them, you know. You could put it anywhere where it not just fits best, but also benefits the most. You know. Right, here we go. Oh Jesus, hello. So yeah, they could pretty much just like add it anywhere they wanted. Which I think would be fine. The other one, that is crazy is the amount of people that live in the Philippines. I never realized how big the Philippines actually was. Just as a country. And I meet a ton of Filipinos over here. Like, so in 2022, there's 111 million people in the Philippines. Like, it's crazy. There's a ton of them. They're all over the place. But yeah. Like, it's pretty crazy. I wonder, kind of like going forward, how much of an influence a country like that has. But yeah, definitely one to stick on, kind of like the Thai stuff, right? Yeah. We have the Iron Ryan. Hey Tech, hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm doing alright. Life's okay. With the roadmap gadget published and their intention to add a fuel slider, do you think they'll ever allow a player to manually select where to store their tank rounds? The player's placement of the tank rounds can make the first stage ammo replenishment times more dynamic and also affect a vehicle's survivability. It could also be an absolute mess to balance vehicles, but also force a player to rethink where they place their shots. I mean, yeah, like they could definitely make it so a player can pick where to put their ammo. The fuel slider thing, I feel like was gonna always be one of those things that, you know, would come, but I think people are not going to be as happy as they think they're going to be, because a lot of it, fuel slider wise, is actually down to having way too much fuel for certain vehicles. So for example, bombers, you have a minimum load, and the minimum load is usually like an hour and a half or something. So It'll be interesting to see if they decide to actually make it so you can take less than that, or if you're still going to have a minimum load or not. I feel like personally, with that type of thing, it'll be good to have it in the game. And in terms of stuff like ammo placement and things like that, I think they eventually will add it, because it's once again another one of those things that has quite, not a huge impact on the game, but is also interesting. How are these missing? Is also interesting to like the average player. And as long as they keep like a default thing there, then it should be okay. Yeah, I suppose the question really is, when it comes to that stuff, is where do you envision people would put ammo if it isn't in like the places where it's easily available? Because most places where it is easily available are also the most survivable. There's very few places where it's actually the opposite. Like the Leopard and kind of the M60, for example, those ones have it in pretty non-survivable areas, but most places have them in pretty survivable areas. So I don't know. Interesting to think about, right? There we go. But yeah, I think they will. Like, stuff like that will get expanded upon. Like, player choice, in terms of that, has always been, you know, something that they've heavily worked on, so I don't know why that would kind of change now. I think they'll just continue with that. There we go. Oh, I should actually do my daily and just get it out the way. So we have Storm. Hey Tech. Hello. What are your thoughts on them working on gameplay balancing and fixing... Here we go. What are my thoughts on them working on gameplay balancing and fixing overall gameplay of matches? I feel like this is talked about all the time in a small capacity. The gameplay has become a gun run almost, which I've been really looking forward to more updates to address mechanics such as teams getting steamrolled. I understand they added spawn protection and giving premium players a set of backups, but this isn't the longevity solution. More balance the vehicles and mid-tier, i.e. 7.0 to 10.0. The reason why it gets boring talking about these things is because they're kind of talked to death, and usually people use very abstract and wide terms to discuss them, such as, the game feels bad, I want the game to feel better, or this is bad, why is this not good? And it doesn't actually lead to anything. The reason why in War Thunder the steamroll stuff happens is because of an addition of more and more and more mechanics, and also just how the game works, right? The reason why a lot of other games don't have the steamroll issue or other similar issues that War Thunder has is because they either have unlimited respawns and also are usually faster, or they only have one respawn, right? So those types of issues, you know, you don't have to kind of contend with because they just don't exist. So War Thunder is in kind of a unique place for that type of thing. The only way you kind of really fix or make something like that easier is to give people easier access to more tools in order to deal with the counters that they get countered by. So, reducing the cost of research, which is also something that they've done over the last year or so. You could also try and modify maps. That never really works, because people always just find new ways to abuse them and then kind of go from there. So yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do all the time. It's kind of all over the place. And it sucks. But what are you gonna do? You know, you can't have everything at the end of the day. Would you rather have a game where you can't respawn and you can't really do anything? Or do you prefer a game where you can respawn and you can do stuff like that? But yeah. It's one of those things that's not really something that can be fixed. And it's just because it's in the core of the game. It's kind of like the way that Aerialistic works and its setup. I've talked about it before though, like the solution to these things. And how to make it easier, but nobody wants to do them, so... Just how it is. So, in my opinion, I'd like them to focus on updates regarding the overall player experience. I understand new shiny toys are good, and a good way for them to bring in money, because yes, it's a business. But I wonder when gameplay modes and so forth will be worked on to improve the longevity of the game even further. At the start of this kind of talk or kind of comment, you talked about the fact how these types of things don't ever really get talked about and how everybody just kind of forgets about them. But as somebody who's been here for more than 10 years, this is the most talked about thing because it's placations. This is something which always 24/7 gets talked about. Why not just improve the game? Why add the new vehicle? And there's simple answers to this. Just for some reason no one ever brings them up when they're in those types of circles. Number one, the people who are working on the new vehicles are not the same people who are making the game good or making the game better. Right? Gaijin actually made... thank you for the raid, Alex. That's very kind of you, man. Hopefully you had a good stream. Hopefully everything went well. Sorry, I'm doing the tech talk. So, the people who are making... Mate, like... What is that? The people who are making the decisions on what happens in the game and, like, what the game looks like in the future and all of these different things are not the same people who are making the new vehicles. Right? They're two distinct sets. Number two, if you did updates which are just based on improving the game, which is a very nebulous term and doesn't actually mean anything, right? It just doesn't. Then you will get a lot of people who will actually just get angry because there's nothing for them to do. And they will claim that the game is dying. This happens all the time. We actually do get an update like that, which is in usually August. It's kind of like a minor, major update that they do every so often. Regia Marina was one of them. People complained. And also at the same time, they do all this stuff already. That's where all the changelogs come from. That's like if... Here. I'll show you, okay? We'll just do this. Let's do... Okay. You go to changelog. And you go to air superiority, right? So this is the last major update. Heavy vehicle update, right? So there's this section, right? A lot of vehicles. But if you go down here, for the rest of it, this is all of the stuff that you're asking for. Right? All of this. All of this stuff is the little improvements, the little things to make the game better, the little bug fixes that you want to see. Right? And it keeps going. Keeps going. Right? So they already do this stuff. And if they had a update which was dedicated to this, would they do it more? No. Because as I said, there's different sets of people working on different things. It's not just like one person, you know, toing and froing and sorting all these different stuff out. And that's just one major update. Think about how many change logs that there are. They're like 3 at least a week. Think about how many other things that they add all the time. There's a ton of different stuff going on. So it really isn't just the case of, you know, they're not, why don't they just do this? Well, they already do, it's just people don't notice. And it's been the constant issue for the longest time. Just how it is. Hey Teddy, nice to see you. So yeah. Would a solution be in the middle ground for everyone, because no one will ever be completely satisfied? Well, that's very true, but your solution they already do, so I don't know. Like, I don't know. I just don't know. Like, I feel like the reason why I do the changelog thoughts videos in general is because I got super sick of people telling me that Gaijin never changes the game and how everything is just like stagnant and everything plays the same all the time. I got really sick of it, man. And I was like, you know what? Let's make a series where we just literally go through all the changes. And we go and see, and it also means that for me, I'm able to what's the word? I'm able to kind of like keep up with everything that's going on, and we can chat about the stuff and see what changes and all of that. You know, it's pretty important to do. But trying to explain that to somebody, especially when they're of the mindset of these things don't exist, pretty much impossible to do. And people just get annoyed. So I don't know. I have no idea what to do. If the sky is blue and somebody goes, hey look, the sky's red, you go, well no, it's blue. Then they go, no, it's red. And what do you do? Like, and they go, yeah, but I want the sky to be blue. Yeah, but it's blue. No, it's red. What do you do? What's the solution to that? I have no idea. I have no idea what to do in that regard. Just an interesting thought, right? I don't know a game that does more bug fixes, more changes, more updates than War Thunder across the board. Most games have like 1, maybe 2 major updates a year. Like, I don't know, man. Seems crazy. Just weird to think about. Maybe we should start doing like thingy series again. Comparison series. You do edit. I understand also the gameplay and transparency has improved drastically. And since then the overall player base has improved. Okay. It's even set the bar higher, bringing any quality of life. Game balancing, new game modes, fleshing out server issues with more transparency and taking risk on different game modes to try new ways on how to use the vehicles implemented in the game. They ran the Fly at the Swallows event on the weekend, last weekend. They're doing a new event cycle. They changed up how some of the Battle Pass things work. In the new event, they actually have different systems in it which haven't been there before. They're trying different ways of marketing through the esports stuff. You know? I don't know. I don't know what you would want more of. What is it that you want? You know? Brass tacks time. None of this nebulous stuff anymore. I'm kind of bored of it. None of, like, I don't know. And we have MJ. Hey, Tech. A few days ago, I saw 2 Churchill Mark 8s towing a tog. It's quite funny. I'd like to know your thoughts about SBMM in War Thunder. Please tell your response in the form of a rant. I'm gonna be like 100% honest with you. I'm way too fucking tired for a rant because this week has been very hectic, and usually I do these things on Fridays where I'm a little bit more relaxed and stuff, but yeah, today I had a very weird dream last night, and also just woke up with a massive headache, so yeah, it's my body trying to tell me I'm a bit fatigued, I think. But yeah, so I mean, I'm not gonna rant about it. We'll probably talk about SPMM in the future. It's not something I don't think I've ever talked about in a video. We've talked about it quite a lot on stream because in Call of Duty and many other areas they actually have it, right? So, if you don't know what SPMM is, it's skill-based matchmaking. So what this means is the idea, you know, is basically just an MMR system, right? So, let's say you have like 1,500 points, and that's from like winning and losing and playing different stuff. And in an ideal scenario, it'll match you in a match with yeah, I don't know why, I don't know where the idea of SPMM came from, but it's literally just a ranked mode, right? Like that's what it is. So yeah, skill-based matchmaking is where it tries to match you with teammates which are close to you in, like, you know, rank, and same with the enemy team. Like that's the perfect thing that can happen, right? The issue is that's not what happens ever in it, because in order for that to exist, let's say in a game like War Thunder, you would need people playing on the same server, you would need people, you know, all playing on the same server, all playing the same BR, all being similar rank. Which just ain't gonna happen. It's also gonna, like, you know, make queue times longer and just create an overall bad experience, right? So devs, when it comes to this stuff, right, because usually a lot of this stuff is hidden because they don't want players knowing their own rank, what they do as a half measure to make sure that you're not sat in queue for years is they cheat in it. So what does this mean? So instead of it being a situation where you put a bunch of players who are like, let's say 1,500, like, instead of being like 1,500 score or whatever, right? Or 1,500 points together, what they'll do is they'll have like one guy who's 2,000, and he'll be with a bunch of people who are like a 500, and they'll all face 1,500 level players. So what it actually creates is a scenario where somebody will usually have to carry. And, you know, that's... If you're inclined to that way, that's not that bad, right? Because maybe you want to play your best every time you play. Maybe you want to push the barrier every time you want to play. But you've also got to hope that all your teammates feel like that too. Otherwise, you'll just be running around, and it'll just be a shit experience for you. It also means, which is actually the larger thing, at least for me, is you have to always play your best, right? In order to maintain what is, you know, set up at that, right? So it just sucks, because you have this system which is basically just a ranked system at the end of the day, which we gave a fancy new name for some reason. and and a lot of people implement it in their games because they see it as more fair for everybody, and it also is a little bit nicer on matchmaking. And the problem is, it means that you are constantly in a scenario where you're in a ranked game. And as a person who just wants to play games for fun and doesn't want to think about the competition of the games or anything like that, that's shit. And also, when it comes to good old War Thunder, right? One of my favorite things about War Thunder is the fact that it doesn't have that setup, and you can kind of try and do different things. You don't always have to, deal with people who are playing the best stuff all the time and trying to play in the best ways. And also in War Thunder, you already have a ranked mode. And you have, competitive gaming stuff, which has been massively pushed forward, like in the last year or two. So you already have all of those things if you want them in the standard areas. So there's not really much point in adding more of that stuff. So, yeah. I just don't understand why, in general, anybody would want a system like that. But nowadays, at least for me, well, for a very long time now, I just kind of want to have fun in games. I don't really care about, how well I do. I just kind of sit around and sometimes get annoyed at a vehicle because it's just a pain spading it. But most of the time, it's just kind of chill. Just playing games to relax away from actual job stuff and all that. But yeah, I don't know. Seems weird to me that that's the situation that we can get into. SPMM is just a rough one. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's something that should be strived for. Especially, once again, as we've seen it kind of be pretty crap in a lot of other games. So, there's no need. Much better as a standard system. So we have Donkey, or Special Donkey, I'm guessing. Hi Tech, what 5 things would you add or remove from War Thunder? Well, the 5 things to add are all just like hangar stuff or profile stuff, right? They've already talked about how in the future they're gonna modify like the profile stuff and they're gonna add a bunch of cool stuff to it, which would be nice. So, all that stuff looks really cool that they're gonna do. Hopefully they can do more of it in time. And also at the same time, maybe they can add, a bunch of different things in terms of, just hangar quality of life stuff. Or more nostalgia stuff, I think, would probably be better. Like an actual physical look at like what your achievements would look like and things. You just won't die. Assist. Oh fuck, hello. Eee. So yeah, I think that's the main stuff that I'd like to see added. Removed? I would probably remove simulator battles because I think it's a drain of resources. I would probably remove all of the restrictions that people have when it comes to being, what's the word? When it comes to, having... Oh, it's strike aircraft and arcade, okay. I'd probably remove all of the restrictions that people have in terms of, like, the content that they can get access to. And I would definitely add a system using free XP or convertible research to be able to get old vehicles that aren't available. Even if it isn't like event vehicles or anything like that, just old stuff that hasn't been around, you know? I think that's probably the way to put it. I think that would be kind of cool. So we have Gianmarco Mazzo. See what it says. Yep. Hey Tech, hope you're doing well and that life has been kind. Yeah, everything's fine. It's just, I'm kind of a little bit tired, but that's okay. Like we'll keep on trucking as always. I feel fine. It's just long week with a lot of stuff. So hopefully next week will be good. Let's see. On our favorite topic, tech trees. Oh yeah, it's a favorite topic definitely. We've talked a bit in the past about a few radical possibilities to reorganize them. But after your comments on the Latam debacle, I was mulling over how Gaijin is likely to approach tech trees in the future, as opposed to what could potentially be done in the vacuum. Well, I can tell you what they'll do. They'll add more tech trees, because for them, like, it's additional content, and also means that they can placate to different parts of the community, and also sell more event vehicles and more premiums to people. So it's just how it goes. Like that, yeah. It looks like they're going to work with the 10 trees they have rather than add new ones. They already said that they were going to add more nations and more tech trees to the game. So they said it last year in one of their Q&As. But I think it was for the roadmap, if I remember correctly. The big three, which don't really need subtrees for the purposes of expansion, will probably keep being home scattered to individual vehicles from various nations, like the Vilkas from Lithuania and the German tree. The minor tech trees get help from subtrees instead. Yeah, it'd be nice. We're not looking at it from a profit point of view. That would work perfectly. Let's just do this. What I'd like your opinion on is, what do you think will be done to help Israel in the future? Neither of the two obvious subtree candidates seem destined for it, I think, and maybe more importantly, kind of struggle to imagine which subtree would fit Israel. Which is a shame, because it's probably the tech tree that needs it the most. What do you think? Have a great weekend. Yeah, Israel needs the most help, apart from Italy. Well, probably nowadays needs the most help. The basic thing is you can add a bunch of Arab vehicles to them, because they're not really going to fit anywhere else. But you just, add them in similar to how they've added the Turans. You just give them the Israeli name. Easy. The problem with this is you would probably anger at least one or two people, but who cares? At the end of the day, it's not something to really be concerned about. Any decision made would anger people, so just do it anyway. Hey, Papa Stalin, nice to see you. So when I think about, Israel and what they should get access to in the game, I mean, I would just take the tech tree and just stick it in the American tech tree. But you know how it is. It's, put Egypt in Israel, put all the Arab nations into Israel. I mean, at the end of the day, it would at least be funny. So that to me is more important nowadays with these types of discussions. By the end of this year, it'll be very obvious when it comes to plans of what they want to do and what they want to move around. So I wouldn't be too worried about everything that was going on. Easy peasy with it. Wouldn't be too worried about it, personally. I'd be more worried about any of these other nations that they're going to bring into the game, which may be a bit of a problem. Wouldn't really be too fun. Then we have user. Let's see. Red Dreadnought here. Oh, guess some of the different thing. Lord of the Rings had an RTS, but it's very old now. Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth. This is the game's name. Yeah, they even have Battle for Middle-earth 2. There's a mod to also remaster it, kind of. It's very good, but from 2004, so it looks kind of old. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but tanks modification bonuses does not apply to helicopters. If you're researching one by playing ground vehicles, just want to say that out loud. Yeah, that's true. It doesn't. Don't know why it doesn't. Probably because it doesn't see him. I don't really see a huge thing with that personally. Like, I get why it's annoying, but more in the, you know, the bigger fish to fry kind of deal. Hey Jesse, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. But yeah, it's kind of odd. But yeah, I am having a good time like going through these user, or I should say Red Dreadnought. Like, it's always nice like going through them. I just wish I was in a little bit better place when it came to fatigue. I don't know, it's just hit me like a storm right now. I don't know what's going on. Sometimes I suppose it just happens. Was quite, as I said, was quite a busy time this week, but we'll be good. Next week we're going to be playing a bunch of stuff, which will be nice. But yeah, so Battle for Middle-earth and Battle for Middle-earth 2 were very good games. They were super fun to play. Played a lot of them played them a lot when I was younger, and would probably play them more going into the future. But the difference between like a Total War, Lord of the Rings, and Battle for Middle-earth is night and day, right? So don't think it's kind of seen as, or at least I don't see them as the same. You know, they're very, very different things, and I think it'd be really cool to see them, and hopefully at some point we can see them, but who knows? My drop percentages have just completely stopped as well. Over the last hour, I've only got 4% of the 3 hour thing. Wow, that's fun. This happened last time too. Wonder what causes it. But yeah, there was actually an official survey where they actually talked about the idea of these things. You know, like Total War creating a Lord of the Rings one, so hopefully they can. It would be nice if that existed. So we have Maxall. Hello, TEC. I have an idea about the issue with nationalism of people wanting their flags on vehicles. Since something like the 2A4 is served in so many countries, why not have the ability to change the flag? You would go to the tech tree, select a vehicle, and pick which nation's flag you want it to have in the stat card. Maybe they could even add the crew lines to the individual vehicle. You could have lineups the German tree offers, and make any and all vehicles any nation that had said tank. What do you think? Would this be a worthy idea to push the devs? They could even go as far as add all flags in the battle tab. No, so right. Nationalism, especially when it comes to games, is not about being proud of your country. It's about telling other people that you are proud of your country, and that your country should exist in X way or Y way, right? It isn't actually a personal thing. It's a thing which is more down to like how you want other people to perceive you, which is why when it comes to nationalism in general, a lot of it is not based on how you see yourself, and never has been. It is how you project your view onto other people of yourself, which is just weird, right? Because it actually should be the other way around. It should be you are happy within yourself and you're happy with the stuff around you. But instead what it always revolves into is this is how we are better, why aren't you like us? So, having a system like that maybe could work, but we already have the decals in the game. So that already exists. People can already do these things. So it isn't about that. It's about literally seeing your nation at the bottom of the screen and seeing the name. We saw comments last week about it, you know, in the video we're looking at. There's a bunch of people who were like, you don't understand this because of this, this, and this, and then straight up just outlined all of that. You know, it's just how it goes. It's very hard to get and understand that mindset, especially if, you know, you don't come, or you haven't like read about it or haven't been around it. It's a weird one. It's a very odd thing. Yeah, of course. Like they could add the flags in and stuff like that. Like there's nothing that would, you know, it would make worse or change in a negative way. More options are always good. I just don't think it solves the issue. We have type 10. Hey Tech, if you were to create a map in War Thunder, what will it be? So many people, and even myself, are using the UU Girl decal, it's funny. Got the RCV to top tier, it's surprisingly useful. It's been pretty good fun this month. Anyways, that's it. Have a nice day. You too, type 10. Have a good time. Well, for me, I think the most important thing in terms of creating a map is making something that is familiar but also slightly different. Urban environments, at least in War Thunder, have felt pretty good to play a lot of the time. Sometimes, you know, you actually have some really good time on it. And one of the kind of styles I've always been interested in is you take a place which is classically known for, you know, specific ideas. So let's say London in the Blitz or Berlin in the bombings. And what you do is you flip the script and you actually make them before that period of time or after that period of time. So you know how in War Thunder we have like bombed out Berlin, right? You know, the Reichstag and all that stuff. And we have Berlin at war when it comes to the air maps. Well, why not just have a ground map of like 1930s London? Or 1930s inspired London? Why not have a map which is based on 1960s Germany? You know, with the wall and all of those other things going on. I think it would be cool. Like, the fact that they've kind of added more areas right now is pretty cool. And I feel like they've kind of gone along that way, especially with a lot of the more modern stuff that they've been adding, like the testing field and all this stuff. But I still think in general that's something that could easily be focused on. Like, I think that'll be quite good to see. Oof. I think one of the areas I can't think of too many maps being in is also kind of the Mediterranean area. Like, we have Campania, and that's pretty much it. More North Africa maps would be nice, or even just South Africa maps. I know they did Red Desert, but I mean, come on. You can do better than that. Whoever made Red Desert and whoever made Pradesh should be ashamed. But basically taking two regions of the world, which is super cool, and making it so everybody hates them. Well, Jungle's from... I don't know where Jungle's from. But yeah. Red Desert is not so. I don't think it's South Africa, but it's the area where South Africa fought. In the Boer Wars. Might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So yeah, like those areas, it would be nice to see. I'd definitely be down for that. And there we go. Let's just get this special task done. That's what I would focus on. I'd like areas to be around. So we have Jerry. What do you think the reason for War Thunder dying will be? The end of the world, Gaijin doing something dumb? Also, take Minecraft Survival Series when. Alex does actually have a Minecraft server we played on a little bit. And it was fun. I had a good time. Minecraft's always nice to go to and kind of relax and enjoy about. The reason why War Thunder will die is if the leadership changes. If you know the history of people like Anton Yudintsev, Kirill Yudintsev, people like BVD, and also the marketing side of it, like the guys who are the head of it, like the PR department, all of the guys who have been there for a long time, if you know their history and what they did before War Thunder and what they're doing now, it's very hard to envision a world where this stuff kind of collapses. And the only thing that would cripple a company like Gaijin is if they overexpanded into too many areas as a publisher and a developer. So, for example, one of the problems with businesses is you want to diversify your portfolio, as it's known. Just like if you're an investor, right? You don't want all your eggs in one basket. Well, Gaijin, for the longest time, they don't have all their eggs in one basket, but they have a metric ton of eggs in in one of their baskets. Like War Thunder is the flagship product, which is good because it's a very good game and very sustainable. But if you decide that you want to try and diversify this and put more money in other areas to see what takes off, it could work, but it also could not. And we've seen a lot of times over like the last 5 to 10 years where that gamble hasn't paid off. Cuisine Royale or Crusade Froad 2nd Edition. You also have a bunch of games which are being developed / made when it comes to War Thunder. Yeah, there's a bunch of different things which are all over the place. At least when it comes to it. So that's really the only thing that could ever cripple this idea. Obviously things may get, bigger and smaller as we go along, but it's stuff that doesn't really change hugely in that setup. So it's just how it is. I don't think War Thunder ever dies, but I think the company Gaijin will have to ebb and flow, just like every other company will. And Gaijin did a metric ton of hiring during the pandemic, just like every other kind of online business, because they were the only gig in town. Fun, right? So I think there will probably be some kind of like restructuring or layoffs, and then we just keep going from there around the place. We'll see what goes on. But at least at the moment, looking pretty good. But yeah, the companies like Gaijin don't just die. There's too much invested in it. And even if they're not doing too well, they'll get sold to somebody. And then the soul will be ripped out, but, that's a different story. But the main way that stuff like this changes is if leadership changes, and therefore decisions around it change, which is why it was kind of a defining factor when Pavel was changed. And how everything was still able to go as it pushed forward. He just went straight through a bunch of trees. That was cool. Well, Enlisted had a kind of Kickstarter setup, which was quite interesting. I don't think it was in 2012 though. No, I don't think War Thunder will ever collapse like that. Then we have Alex. Three things to ask about. Dun 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 dun. Would be funny to make a dedicated debunk video of some of the ridiculous micro TTs, like Ukraine, Alpine, or the people still pushing for independent South Africa tech tree. Even though I'm a bit more moderate of the adding on new tech trees to the game, seeing the ones pushed on the forums right now is just too much even for me. And yes, Israel being its own tech tree was dumb, and I think the best way to save it is either adding Chile as a subtree, making it a Italy-style international tech tree, or the devs acknowledging the Israel tech tree being independent in-game was dumb and moving into the US tech tree, in what I could see as the big Hangar UI overhaul update. Since a vocal minority that are active on the forums will not stop screaming about their national bias until they're forced into a position where they feel they need to shut up, but I also blame the reason these people are being so loud is just how the forums are currently moderated. Yeah, but I mean, there isn't really a way of shutting them up, because if you shut them up on the forums, then they just go to Discords, and then they've put forward a figurehead who just projects their opinions on the forum, and then it just keeps going over and over again. So the moderation part doesn't really matter, it's just the fact that some people's brains are broken and you can't do anything about it, you know? Let's see. But yeah, the reason why everybody's talking about the tech tree stuff is because of the fact, as I said, Gajin literally said last year that, you know, they're going to be adding more. So that gave people impetus to do all these things. And since we're in a point in War Thunder where there's not a ton of new stuff going on apart from minor stuff, people always focus on them. I could do a debunking series looking through a lot of these tech trees and talking about why they're issues or talking about problems overall. But the thing is, I would rather not give them the time of day. Like, it's way too easy to just sit there and go, hey, here's 5 vehicles that Britain needs in the game. Here's 5 vehicles that Hungary can add. Here's 5 vehicles that, you know, Belgium could add. When I get bored and I don't really have anything to really talk about, I make those types of videos. Because it's good to remember a lot of the random ass stuff that's around that you can add into the game. But it's not really that interesting. It's kind of boring and dull. So I personally think when we have a look at a lot of stuff like that, it's more just, you know, kind of looking at the vehicles. A lot of people are super personally invested in these things because they have nothing else in their lives. Like, you know, they usually don't have jobs. They usually aren't very old. Maybe they're doing, like, student stuff. Maybe they're, like, you know, they haven't found their calling in life. Or maybe they just, you know, live off the state and don't understand why their life is shit. Like, the simple fact is there's a ton of reasons why people do these things, but most of them pretty much come down to overcommitment into ideas in their own head. So they're way too invested in a specific thing, and that's why they like hammer it down over and over and over again. And if you're dealing with somebody who is doing that, right? If you're dealing with somebody who believes in that way, and it's like their core identity that they like are into this and this is it, and you turn up and you go, well, this is crap. Like, this is just crap. It makes no sense. this is stupid, this is stupid, this doesn't exist. How would you even add this? You know, what is this? What is this? This makes no sense. It might be truthful, and it might be like, you know, probably the best thing to do, and it's something that I do, you know, a decent amount of the time. But what it does is it just angers people, because you're attacking a part of them because they have nothing else better going on in their lives. It's like how people are attached to just video games. It's like part of their personality, right? Like for me, I have like a whole life outside of these things. I have a family, I got a job, got a bunch of mates, you know, got, you know, family pretty much all over the world just chatting and chilling and talking about stuff. Some people just don't. They're just here by themselves and they form a community around an idea and that's what they focus on. Is that a bad thing? No. Because in other walks of life, they wouldn't have any of that. They would just exist and then probably eventually start tying nooses, right? Because they just got nothing going on. So at least this gives people purpose. But the problem is, that's what you deal with. And you're basically saying to those people, hey, so this thing that you really like and this thing that, you know, is really core to you, yeah, it's shit. Like, how do you think they're gonna react? So yeah. A lot of the time for me, I just kind of sit there and, like, people already kind of know what my opinions are and stuff because they're pretty like standard to me. But for other people, it's not really the same. And because of the fact that they're so invested, it isn't ever a logical argument that's had, it's always an emotional one. And emotional ones are worthless. But you can't tell them that because then they get annoyed. So yeah, maybe we'll do it, but you know, the issue with a lot of these tech trees anyway is their fantasy. Meaning not just there's a bunch of fake vehicles, but there's some hilarious thoughts when it comes to BRs and when it comes to general balancing of all these different things. And we'll have to see. I don't know. If I get really bored and there's not really a ton else going on, maybe I'll just kind of sit down and pontificate about these things. Then we have number 2. If you could talk to the tech of pre-new era updates and before rank 9 April Fools 2017, what would you say to him about the game? You mean like with the knowledge that I have now of the game compared to then? I think I would be much more like just don't question yourself and stick to your guns. I know that sounds really stupid, but one of the problems I had back in the day, and I don't really do it anymore, because to be honest I don't have time and I don't think it's worth it, is the way that my head works when it comes to like dealing with certain like issues or trying to like work through problems is I kind of take the most direct route and then I just add stuff on top of it from there. So it turns out in game design, especially when you're working out what you actually want to add to things, usually following the logical routes is the way to do these things. Right? You don't fuck about. Like you usually just kind of do what is there to do. And then you fill in the gaps as you go. So a lot of the time I'd like chat to people and they'd just say I was nuts, or they would just say I was just really dumb, or you know, I didn't understand the game, or all of this stuff when we would talk about the fact of what's going to happen in the future and what's gonna go forward with it and yada yada yada. And I think I would have just said, you know, don't worry about that stuff. And the last few years, I haven't like worried about any of that at all. And it's actually been super positive, you know? Like, I've just pretty much done my own thing, had a good time, and that's it. And now that a lot of my other areas of my life are sorted out too, and they're all going in positive directions, it all feels really good. I can't be mad. And I think that's probably the most important thing. The difference between me now and me then is there was a lot more stresses on my head because there was a lot more things that were like more up in the air. Was I gonna stay in Canada? What were relationships looking like? Would I have to pick and choose what to do? What's the money situation like? Where are the jobs coming from? Am I going to be able to do all these things? Like there was a lot of stuff back then that was more up in the air. So focusing my mind on things was a lot harder to do. But nowadays, after many years of doing pretty much everything, I've realized that the most important thing for me is straight up just, making sure your schedule's sorted, making sure that you get enough sleep, get enough food and all those things. And yeah, all the rest will just kind of fall into place. Like, I fully believe in my ability now, like when it comes to pretty much anything. Back then, that wasn't the case. There was definitely a bit of questioning about was I able to do things or could I fit everything in? And after doing it for many years now, I can. So yeah, stick the course. It's okay. And also maybe upgrade computer stuff faster. That might be something. Invest in yourself a little bit. Get a second screen. you know, simple as. And what about historical accuracy in video games? Yeah, always fun. Since I just saw the GunTuber administrative results ranting about Battlefield 5, people still talking about that game, which made me realize Gaijin sneaked the woman commanders into the historical World War II tanks. Well, at least in Russia they had them, right? Now they had like female crew members and stuff like that. But the profile pics, I mean, at the end of the day, they're supposed to be a representation of historical figures, but also they're supposed to represent you, right? Because you're the one who uses them. So on the forums, for example, they're now tied to you completely. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think we were talking about the other day that we were talking about the other day about Battlefield, how they basically just dropped, the most recent Battlefield game that they made. And by dropped, I mean like dropped development. I don't I don't mean like they're just not doing it anymore. And they're working on a new one because 2042 was a disaster. It was terrible. And the one way they're trying to market it and talk about it again is, it's very realistic. Very, very historical and realistic. It's not really what you want though, is it? It's not really what you want. You don't want Battlefield to be realistic. Because military realism is kind of boring for most people. And I just wish we would stop using these words like interchangeably because it's what people want to hear. Because they're not realistic at all. But say la vie. It's just a little pet peeve of mine, personally. Not a huge one, but yeah, it's just something to remember. But yeah, I think overall with a lot of different stuff, not too worried about all of those things. Would be fun. Then we have this crazy Spartan. Hey Tech, I know this is a dumb idea, but how funny would it be if Gaijin just made lobbies where only cheaters get put and they're just left in purgatory? I mean, there's game companies that do that. I can't remember which ones. Which one was the one which did it more recently? There was one thing that did it. I was actually for some reason on YouTube Shorts. There's this guy that keeps popping up on one of my things. And one of the things he keeps talking about is different stuff that they did in like World of Warcraft to try and like fix stuff like botting and things like that. So one of the things that they did, there was a boss in World of Warcraft that would just walk in diagonals. So it would just walk like this, like down the map. And it would just walk in a straight line and a diagonal the whole time, right? So what a bunch of botters did is they just had, the bots just follow the guy and then just press attacks. And that was how they did it. So they realized it was an issue and they were getting a lot of reports that this was happening in the game. So what they decided to do to kind of fix this thing is they just put a rock in the way. So you had this situation where they would just go along this one path, but since they put a rock in the middle of it, all of the bots just got stuck on the rock. And then you would just have a GM who would turn up to the rock every once in a while and just ban everybody who was stuck on the rock. It's just funny how you get like stuff like that, right? But no, I kind of like the idea of having a War Thunder, not a loyalty system, but like a respect system. Like a lot of other games have that, right? Good evening, Dark Tiger. Nice to see you. You can get like little bonuses for having them or whatever. But yeah, the thing that Dota does, I think, would actually be the best. So, Dota has a queue system where basically, if you're an asshole and you get reported enough times, you get put in the specific queue, which is with other people who are assholes. So basically, other people who are raging or, falling apart or all of that stuff. The most interesting Blue Order tree is America because it's very fun. So what they would do is you had to win like X amount of games to get out of this queue. So you basically have to work together as people to do that, And I think that's really cool. I think you basically take the worst of the worst and then make it, so you put them together. I think that's kind of cool. They should do that. Overall, that I think would help the War Thunder ecosystem quite a lot. And also make people realize that the vast majority of people playing War Thunder are really not that bad. And I know we talk about like War Thunder being like having this like set of community which are just nuts, which every community has, and the bigger a community is, the more bigger it looks like the nuts are. But it's still a very small minority of people who are actually like this, right? So I think it would be a good idea to do that. Because it might give people a sense of perspective on how many times they would actually report somebody for going after others or doing these things. It really doesn't happen that much, So yeah, I think that's probably what I would do. The other thing Dota also did, which was hilarious, is at Christmas they gave out like Christmas presents to everybody, basically just to say thank you or Merry Christmas or whatever. And what they ended up doing is people who had cheated or broken the rules, like, sharing accounts or whatever, they literally gave them a Christmas present, which was a lump of coal, and it banned them for whatever thing that they were banned for. I thought that was quite funny. And there was actually a popular Dota streamer who was banned live on stream because he was account sharing because his behavioral score was too low because he was a rager and he wanted it to be higher. So yeah, always fun. You seeing a huge racist issue with this community? Nah, not at all. There's hardly any racism when it comes to War Thunder. There's a lot of people who like their own vehicles and stuff, but no, they're definitely not racist. Here we go. So it's a show again. You even have a wax named after you and a lagoon for shame. It is how it is. We gotta do the best that we can, you know. E.T. And we have RSS Endurance. Hey Tech. Which nation do you think fits for an Israel subtectory? Personally, mine is Chile and Singapore because of the military history with Israel. For Chile, it's because a lot of their military vehicles have Israeli modifications. They also buy a lot of Israeli military weapons. For Singapore, because Israel helped to train and arm the military. That's why today the Singapore Armed Forces and Israeli Defense Forces have similar training, air force and military strategies. Yeah, sure, why not? Sure. I mean, I would throw the whole of the Middle East into Israel. Half games and top tier RB have people saying the M word in chat. There's definitely a racism problem. No, there isn't. That's like looking at like 2% of the community and then looking at 2% of that community and then going, yeah, we have a problem. It's a very, very small percentage you're looking at there. What you have is the same thing you have in the whole of the internet history. You have people who are aged 20 to 30, usually male, who usually have some kind of mental deficiency, who are bored with their lives, don't have anything else to do, and find it funny to make jokes on the internet. And the best thing to do is just point and laugh at them, because they're clowns. But yeah, with Israel, I'd just add the whole Middle East to them. Why not? Go crazy. It doesn't, like, the thing is with the Israel tree in game, it shouldn't exist anyway. Like, it's the way that they implemented it was very silly, and they should have added it to the American tech tree. But you know, if we're gonna do silly things, we might as well just make it super silly. You know. I'm not really a fan of half measure lunacy. I'm a big fan of crazy measure lunacy. If you're gonna take something if you're gonna take something slightly to the extreme, you better like hold on and go crazy with it. You know, that's why I kind of like, you know, with art and stuff like that, not really into like standard art, think it's kind of dull. But if you make something that's crazy abstract and then take it to like the nth degree, it's fantastic. Love people with minds like that. I think it's awesome. Manifest the racism. Sure. I don't know. Like I play all day, and you know I play like 7-8 hours most of the days, and I just don't see it. So maybe people are in different lobbies. Maybe as usual as a human being, you remember the negatives more than the positives. Or maybe I'm just a big fat liar. Who knows? Anything's possible. Then we have Matrix. Me! Yes. Good old Matrix. If you don't know who Matrix is, he's a long-time friend. He's one of the admins on the Tech Hub. He runs the, or helps to run the classes, the class squadrons and subsidiaries. And he's just a really nice dude. You know, he works in computers. Had many different chats with him. He's basically the reason why I've been able to put together the computers that you know, I use for content creation and even other stuff, right? Type a Chinese character in an NA server and you'll see. Yeah, but why are you typing in the chats anyway? If you're on an American server, why would you type in Chinese symbols? Or why would you type in to a chat anyway in War Thunder? What's the point in it? The chat in War Thunder is one of the most useless things in the history of man. Which is why in most of the games, like, you never actually see it used. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to at least think about. It was funny when they disabled the chat and absolutely nothing changed. Fun times. Ni hao TEC. Ni hao Yin Mingling. Here are some of my recent thoughts about the new events. That'd be nice to see. I think they're making a mistake on the discounted GE for each stage. Currently, if you get 85% of the progress, you pay 50% of the total GE, and 95% of the progress, you pay 20%. If I were to do it, I would make it, if you get 50% progress, you should only pay 40% GE. The idea is to give players a better discount than their progress. This approach entices players to spend GE that they otherwise wouldn't, attract players to spend time that they otherwise wouldn't, because if the grind is too hard, players give up, and give players an illusion that they're benefiting from this and can grind less. You know what? If I send my resume to Gaijin, maybe I can get a position in their analytics department. Yeah, maybe, but the reason why they've put in these percentages in the first place is because of their analytics department. And with the analytics, the Department of Analytics has. They've obviously seen a correlation between people getting super through the event and getting super close to the end, but not finishing it, and also not buying it, and then getting frustrated and not playing anymore. So the specific change in how they're doing all of these things is to target those people. It isn't to make it more fair or to make the most money out of it. It's a first kind of stage change to see how it affects, the general way people play. Will this mean that more people will be inclined to buy stuff? Probably. Will it reduce anger and resentment? Will it in the future give them an opportunity to bump up the score? Because now people know that there is something there that, they can just pay for, which means it's easier for them to deal with. Who knows? All of these things are possible. All of these things can, go ahead. It's kind of crazy. So, for me, the simple thing is, your suggestion might be something they're working towards. Maybe eventually they will do that. Maybe that's in the plans. But this is the first step on that staircase, right? You've always got to remember these things. These things are incremental. They're not just like, right? They're not just hammered down. It's like the event cycle itself. Even though they've committed to this new event cycle, that doesn't mean that every event's the same. And they've even said that. Some events will be 18 days. Some events will be 12 days. Some might be 16. Some might be 14. Then, maybe they'll do events which are 30k, 35k, 40k, 45k. Maybe next year they'll go higher. Maybe they'll increase the G cost. Maybe they'll decrease certain G costs. Maybe they'll add in modifications. Maybe they'll add in camos. Who knows? Anything is all over the place. And there isn't a strict rule here on how all of this is set up. Hey, Lucky Strike, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. So yeah, it really is that, maybe you're correct in the long run, and I would actually personally like to see that, going forward. But yeah, we'll have to see. And the other thing, the 292, last night was horrible. getting my ass fucked by a brigade of 292s the entire night. Oh dear. My 9397 ground lineup is already a pain because of constant up-tis 10-0-10-3 premium players. Now they want to ruin it even more with the 10-0 OP event tank. I'd even argue the 292 is stronger than the ZTZ 993 at 10-7. 292 has better mobility and firepower. It's got worse firepower. It doesn't have thermals. It's got terrible targeting speed. And also, I don't think it does have better mobility, actually. It has better firepower because its reload is nearly half of the 292s. And you know what the ZTZ has? Smoke. You know what it also has? A machine gun. The 292 is an event vehicle, which means it'll be popular for a few days and then it'll just disappear as if it never existed. So don't worry, you can just wait for that and you'll be good. So this happens every time. You know, every time there's an event. Don't get suckered in. It'll be okay. They will come for you, and then you will fight them off, and then you'll be fine. Happens every time. And with this new event cycle, it's gonna happen even more. So, hope you're ready for it. It'll be good. It's not overpowered at all. At least in my opinion. It might go up by 0.3, but that's it. Then we have 292 plus terms plus BMP2M, 2S38, K50, SU25 equals 3 win. You tell me how Russia is unbiased. I didn't even get the chance to complain. Russian tank rewards for our Chinese themed event. Yeah, it was a bad idea making the 292 the Call of the Dragon thing, but it's, you know, obviously with the obviously with like certain things, right? Like with they wanted to celebrate Chinese New Year with the event, and they obviously did. So, you know, that is something. But I think also what they wanted to do was they wanted to they obviously wanted to do a vehicle for one of the three major nations, and they thought the 292 would be a banger. I would have actually preferred a Chinese vehicle for this event, but I think they did a bunch of Chinese stuff for Chinese New Year, so you know I won't be too mad about it. But yeah, that lineup's very strong. It has a lot of nice elements to it, but at the same time, you know, if you have a look at the 10-3 German lineup, the 9-7 German lineup, the 8-7, the 9-0, the 9-3 German lineups. If you have a look at the 10-0, 10-3, 10-7 like American lineups, they're all pretty nuts. Like it's kind of crazy, you know. It's just a major nation versus minor nation diff, you know. If you want to know what's overpowered right now, you can watch the esports stuff and see what everybody's playing. I'll give you a hint, it's not Russia. You know what's also quite funny in all of those things? Usually they never play Russia. Weird. So then we have Obir Zoe. How did you manage to drop your bombs on that base and live in your BN? The moment I drop them, I get a friendly AM up my butt for stealing a base you never pinged on the map. I call streamer bias on that one. I mean, at the end of the day, you always get, you know, there have been times where I've been friendly fired in the MiG-23, but it isn't because of stealing bases or anything. It's just straight up somebody just fired a rogue missile. You know, it's just kind of how it goes. So the simple thing is just how it is. Like I don't know how else to put it. Like it happens, and people do get frustrated for it. I think in general, as long as you go for as long as you go for it in and don't think about all the ones where you just get annihilated, it's all good. But yeah, sometimes I do get annihilated, and sometimes I shoot my allies by accident. I had a pretty rough time with what's it called? I had a pretty bad time when I was first starting out playing the MiG-23M, because it was as if there was like a script being run by people where once a missile was fired, they instantaneously would drop countermeasures. And it's something that I've seen happen a lot, which is weird, and I would like to see what is causing it. Because I don't know how it would happen without there being something doing it automatically, you know, because it's just too well timed. And it's once again standard across the board as well. It's really weird, and once I play more of that area, I will definitely like have a look more into it. With the new event coming up, I'm going to be spading the F-16, the F-16A and the MiG-23M, and probably a few other things as well. But yeah, there was just some weird stuff happening that doesn't really make any sense to me. But who knows? You know, it could just be me being crazy, which is definitely more likely. But nah, the thing about the streamer bias, I don't think it's true. Like the other day I was playing the M26 and we played like 10 games in a row and I didn't die to to an enemy tank. I just got bombed over and over and over again. So yeah, no matter what position I was on the map, I just got bombed. And that's more the streamer bias that I'm used to. Then we have House of Schmidt. Steamrolling seems to be a huge issue for game modes with respawns, like Grand RB and EC. Or EC, Battlefield 1 had that behemoth mechanic that would give the team that was losing a Zeppelin or battleship or armored trains help them win. It was super fun. Yeah, that's a good way of dealing with it as well. You think some sort of game mode assistance could be given to the losing team in Grand RB or EC to help mitigate the steamrolling? Maybe air reinforcements and or respawn cost reduction, or even give a 10% boost to the losing team? Just something to make the losing team want to stay in the game and have a chance. It is probably the hardest thing to work out for War Thunder, right? Like, it is because it's built into the core of the game. So you would have to have like some kind of comeback mechanic, but you don't want to make it too strong so people don't favor it too much. I don't know. I'm not sure what you could do. I do like the idea of the AI reinforcements, though. Zarostiva! We are losing the battle! Send in the tanks! You just get like 10 T-34s. That used to be a thing in Men of War, actually. In Assault Squad 2, if you got to like a certain area of the kind of map, because pretty much like if you've ever played Men of War Assault Squad 2, pretty much all the campaign missions were the same. It was either some weird ass like stealth mission, or it was go capture these areas. You know, and when you captured an area, you got yourself like a new thing. So maybe it was, you know, like mounted anti-tank guns, or maybe it was a tank, or maybe it was like a calliope. But one of the things was like charge or something like that, and it was straight up just like a ability to hit, and then like 5 AI tanks would come on your side, and then they would just walk forward and see what they would deal with. And I always thought that was quite fun. So yeah, always enjoyable. So for me, I think overall, yeah, some kind of mechanic like that would be fine. Or maybe like a few AI aircraft just appear, and you know they hit like some of the ground targets, and what they do is they hit some of the ground targets, and what they could do if they were cool is they would mark the targets as they hit them. I think that'd be kind of nice. Like I'd definitely be down for that. Like that could be cool. Kind of have like a less serious spotting mechanic. But it is definitely a problem in the game. I don't know. I don't know how you fix it. It'll be one of those things I'll think about. I'll have a look at what other games do and stuff like that. Then we have Just Me. Lots of patriots these days, like genius and insanity, patriotism and extremism are often placed next to each other, separated by thin lines. Heard that one from a drunk uncle, or maybe I was drunk. Well, patriotism, like once again, like patriotism itself is a completely fine thing. The issue with patriotism is when you start believing that there's two ways it goes, right? Number one way of going is, hey, my country is so cool, everybody should be like us. Why aren't you like us? You need to be like us. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna like force you to be like us. Right? And it's like, oh, okay, well that's weird. And then there's the other mindset, which is also extremely annoying, by the way, which is the you're not like us, but we think you're better than us, but that's not fair because we should be better than you. So then they just get pissy and annoyed. That why do people not like how we do things, kind of thing. Like it's a little bit all over the place. But it's just how it is. Like at the end of the day, it's not a negative thing to be proud of where you're from or the people around you or any of these different things. The issue as always is the enforcement of those values when it comes to others and all of that wonderful stuff. There we go. Anyways, how about a mechanic like the squadron vehicle research, but this time a percentage of the research points accumulates for a week, goes to a vehicle on another nation's normal tech tree. Premium accounts will of course get higher percentages to promote sales that will field the server hamsters. The game is vast now and people are missing out on other unique experiences other than pain. These tech tree fantasizing is often a coping mechanism. Good day, thanks for the great content. Or good, just me. I kind of like that idea, actually. So basically, it could even be an additional percentage, right? So let's say you grind out, I don't know, 50k RP in a week. And like 2% of that goes to another tech tree. So like, what would that even be? Like $1,000, right? So you get 1,000 RP that goes to another tech tree. But you also keep the 50 grand on your first one. So that would definitely incentivize people to play other stuff. And if you could turn it on and off, so that percentage could either go to the tech tree you're doing or another tech tree. Yeah, I like it. I like that idea. That definitely incentivizes people to play different stuff. It would also mean as well that when a new tech tree comes out, you know, you don't have to struggle through dealing with the, you know, the number one vehicle every time to be able to, you know, sort it out. And I think that's good. You know, that's how all these things should be. They should be like kind of a situation where you have that setup. I think that's much more powerful than the other setup, which is, you know, having to grind everything stone cold stock. You could even do it like crew skills and things like that too. But I think a general rework of the crew skill things would be better anyway. They've been around for a long time and they haven't really changed too much. So we have World of War Thunder. I've seen the whole video. Great information and ideas. Well, that's good. I'm glad that we can have a bit of fun with it. Then we have Gator Green Gladiator. Hey Tech, hope you're doing well. Always miss these. When are they again? Usually they're on Fridays. Friday mornings PST is usually when I record them. But this week we've done it on Saturday. And that's just because I was super busy yesterday. I had to actually do a bunch of work meeting stuff in the middle of the day, which is usually something I don't have to do, but I had to do it the last few days, which kind of screwed up my schedule. But should be back to normal going forward. But yeah, we usually record them Friday mornings PST on Twitch. and other areas. It's either going to be on like Friday or Saturdays or Sundays at the latest, right? Just because of how this is kind of all set up. But yeah, it's pretty much how it is. Right, there we go. Right, then we have Tracelyn. I'm guessing that's how they say that. But they ever made the KF-41 playable? No, it's done. It's finished. It's in the ground. I mean, it is playable. It's just not playable as a vehicle to go up against MBTs, right? It works in its niche, and that's how it's gonna go. It was really funny. A lot of people comparing it to the Puma when it first came out because they don't understand game mechanics or how any of these things should work. I mean, we're seeing it with the 292 as well, you know. Big round must be good. All those very stuff. But yeah, I think overall it's fine where it is, and when they add more and more vehicles around it, you know, it'll have a good time, and it will be very, very fun. Then we have the only Linen, or the only Len, I should say. Good day, Tech. Good day, sir. Speaking of good ideas, I'm surprised they haven't added the New York tech tree yet. As a proud New Yorker, not, would love to see some historical and well-known representation, such as bickering, bike-riding addicts with carbine rifles Mark III, Mafia mobile with 4 crew, and the beloved pizza delivery guy A1E7. Such additions to the game would be enhance the gameplay, enrich the lives of the third world, maybe even solve world hunger. A Mafia mobile would be so fun. I really enjoyed playing. Oh shit! What's it called? What was the French game where you played as an Irish guy and you were in Paris, and every time you completed a sector, you changed Paris from like black and white to color? Saboteur. I really enjoyed Saboteur, and that had one of those cars in it. I fully ground out that game. Like I got all the challenges done. I did all the races. That there was one of the races I wasn't able to do, because of the frame rate I had on my laptop. Because the speed of the car was tied to the frame rate of the car, or the frame rate of the game. So because my laptop was so bad at the time when I was playing it, I couldn't win this race. So in order for me to win the race, I had to take the camera and look down at the car, right? Just the car. So my FPS was high enough for the car to go fast enough to beat the other racer in the race. So I had to memorize the whole course, and basically do it blindfolded, looking only at the car and nothing else on the road. And I did it, because I'm a nutso. So yeah. Always interesting with those things. Thank you for the subscription, Captain Rex. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. But yeah, stuff like that is always funny to me. But yeah, if they had in that game like a Mafia mobile with machine guns on it as one of like the bigger prizes that you could get later on. So yeah, I'm well down for stuff like that. Like let's have a bit of fun with stuff like that. Why not? Get the pizza guys around. But being realistic here, I think adding tanks with swords and buckshot rounds to tanks would really help the struggling players. I agree, and we should make them default as well. So it's only fair. I think tanks should start without guns, or without shells. So what you have to do is you actually have to grind out the shells by only using the machine guns on the tank. It's only fair. You know, we need to give a true, holistic, diverse uh, you know, multicultural experience. I need these tanks to die. But yeah, so it's just how it is. It is required, it is needed for the greater good. Without it, we all perish. As always. Then we have a way with you, Varbegger. You can't start with cruising the tank, yeah. Yeah, that would be fun. Hello, Tech. Now, I know I'm very disappointed in you. Yes, this is an old meme. This is an old meme. I'll have you know that as a certified Hoi General, I could be placed on any battlefield and draw beautiful lines on a map that tell the infantry to force attack. It will be a flawless victory, especially if I micro my tank mechanized divisions and encircle the enemy one division at a time. You also forgot to mention that experience with the Paradox curriculum makes you an expert economist, historian, and political analyst. Very true, actually. I forgot about that. I'll be expecting your apology once you read this and an essay describing why such slanderous remarks harm our society as a whole. Very true. Yes, hope you had a laugh reading this thing above. I had to do it once you mentioned Hoi Generals. Have a great time. Yeah, Armchair Generals, always fun. But no, it's, yeah, I honestly think we should just remove universities. Like, institutes of higher learning should just be replaced by paradox games. Because paradox games give you the ability to learn about life and realize how random it is. And also go in different areas and different treks of life to try and experience what is your reality. So I honestly think paradox games should just straight up replace higher learning. It only makes sense to me. Either that or Eve. Just throw. You want a doctorate? No, go play Eve. Then, like, after 10 years, tell me how you feel. Like, that's the way to go. Can you join AG? I mean, you can queue up at the same time if you want. But yeah, good. Yeah, it's always fun. Like, the other day we were talking about, like, school curriculums, because obviously the big thing now, which is being pushed in the news, is right now the, like, whole sexualization stuff, right? So, you know, what should kids learn at school, and what is up to the parents to teach them? And of course, there's no right answers. Is probably the best way of putting it, because it all depends on the parent and it all depends on the situation they're in. But everybody feels like everybody's very good at telling people what not to teach, but not great at the whole what to teach thing. And it's always kind of like interesting to look at the different, like, you know, setups in that way. Like, some people, it's very easy. Like, we talked about this, right? It's very easy to look at, like, negative stuff and be like, yeah, don't do that. Like, yeah, no shit. But, like, how do you actually do the good stuff? Or how do you do the stuff that you want to do? That's, like, the more interesting question for me. That's why, like, whenever we have, like, a discussion about things, the most important information for me is not what they think the problem is. Because usually people think a lot about problems, and they think a lot about how to fix them or how to move them around or, like, how to do any of that stuff. The more interesting thing is actually the solution to whatever problem they're looking at. I think that's way more important than we've seen in other areas. So that to me is, you know, kind of interesting to look at. There's always a right answer. Not really. Not with education, man. Like, the issue, there were several things that I learned at school that were just wrong. So let's put it like this. In year 8 at school, so this is when you're like, what, 12, 13? I was taught that weight is not a force. I was then told 2 years later that weight was indeed a force. Right? And then 2 years after that, I was then once again taught that weight is not a force. And the reason for this is because there are 3 separate areas that we were looking at in 3 separate ways. Which one's correct? Which one do you pick as the one to put your hat on? And the way that you kind of work that out is the context in what you're talking about. There's always a right answer. That's my point. You were taught wrong. Nah, it's not the case, especially not with social issues. Like, the idea that the human being is a stationary thing, or society itself is a stagnant, like, moving, well, a stagnant, like, point in time is crazy. You could easily teach somebody something when they're 5 or 6, and it could be completely wrong in 10 years by the time that they have left school. And we're not talking about like maths, and we're not talking about sciences, but even in sciences this happens. Go and have a look at electromagnetism, right? Electromagnetism for me was a huge part of my like A-level physics curriculum. Electromagnetism is really young when you actually have a look at a lot of these like areas. Like it was popularized in, what was it, like the 60s or the 70s? Let's see. (1887), right? So 1887 was when Heinrich Hertz demonstrated the existence of the waves predicted by Maxwell by producing radio waves in his laboratory, right? Okay? So that's what? 150 years, right? Which in European terms is not very long. I also understand that in in other terms or in other areas it can be quite a little bit all over the place. But the person, at least in England, who popularized it was a guy in the 70s, and I can't remember who the hell it was. I'd have to find him. Yeah. It's kind of nuts to think about. I'd have to find it. Like, because he has like a set of videos on YouTube of his lectures from back in like the 70s. I'll see if I can find it. Because it is something that is quite important. No, not Feynman. Oh, I can't find it. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Anyway, to like learn about, but also looking at like the science of it, you're talking about something which is 50 years old at that point. And also, if you're looking at a bunch of different areas in science where things are not as concrete as that, you could literally get taught something and then in 5 years it's just completely changed. Which is why it's a pain in the ass, and also why when it comes to a lot of work stuff, you literally need to do like refresher courses like over and over and over and over again with like different things, right? Oh, thermodynamics? Yeah. That one's always fun. There exists a right answer, but there's no guarantee humanity will learn it. No, John Lennon was wrong, actually. There isn't a right answer, and that's the whole point. There isn't, like, the world by itself may be a binary place, even though it isn't. But let's say it is. Humans just aren't. Like, the human being is insanely complex. So if you're talking about societal stuff and societal issues, and you're trying to teach stuff like that, It's impossible. Because what is deemed correct or different today, you just wait 5 years, and it's just completely different. Completely different. How do you teach that in a school environment? You just teach them different stuff every year. How do you do it? Or do you do what they do now, where they go back, like, 50 to 100 to 150 years to issues which are seen as solved? Whether they are or not depends on who you talk to, right? That's how you set it up. And it's impossible to deal with. You can't do it. There ain't a right answer. Because the answer depends on the person. Then we have the Rex. Do you think they'll ever add a flamethrower Sherman? Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, we saw some flamethrower tanks, what was it, last year? It was really nice to see them. I think they talked about how they're going to add more flamethrower tanks, but the one thing that they're not going to do is they're not going to add tanks which only have a flamethrower. So they're not going to add tanks which can only use one thing. It has to be a tank which can defend itself, with a gun of some kind. So I'm guessing, I don't know if the Zippo, the Sherman Zippo had a I don't know if the Sherman Zippo had its gun still intact, or if it was, replaced with the gun. I hope that it did have it intact. I just can't remember right now. But yeah, it doesn't. We will get something like that. As always, a guarantee in life is death, taxes, and imagination getting some interesting mechanics. So you will get that stuff. Bonk. We need a brand carrier with a flamethrower. We do need just a brand carrier. Don't need to be the flamethrower one though. Brand carrier in general is the way to go. I think that to me would be quite fun. There we go. Sorry, I just wanted to get those off. Hey, Holy Rune, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. Then we have Sent Sam. Greetings, Tech. Your tech talks are great to listen to, while I also enjoy playing some War Thunder. Appreciate your work. Keep bugging on. Oh, I will do. Don't worry. As I said, we're not going to stop anytime soon. My life balance at the moment, especially after this week, will be very good. I'll be committing more time to working out, but I mean, that's fine. It's good to work out. And also at the same time, we have a few... This year, I've done a lot better when it comes to, sorting out, doing different things and making sure that family stuff is all sorted. So going into this period of time, we should be very good. I'm looking forward to it. Wish the devlogs and stuff had started, but c'est la vie. Can't have everything. Thank you for the Prime subscription, Papasha. Thank you for supporting the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. And also, thank you for the subscription. Moi. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much too. I just finished spading the French M26 Pershing after they bumped it to 6.7. I'm with you on that decision being pretty whack, by the way. And I came out with a 9-1 KD and a 91% win rate. Not trying to flex, but honestly, to me, it's hilarious to see these results. Because I thought the Pershing at 6.7 would be a little rough, and compared to my US Pershing stats, it's not even close to as good. French bias? Yeah, I mean, it might be French bias. It might be, you just had a few days where, you got super lucky, or maybe you're just a really good player. The thing is for me, when I was playing the M26, I did the video on it more recently. the thing about the M26 was not the fact that I died a lot. You know, I had a 3-to-1 KD, I had like a 65%, win rate or whatever. Like, it all felt very good. If you have a look at the stats. But the problem was there was just too many situations where I was just sat there going, well, what the fuck do I do now? Like, well, what do I do? Like, do I go in this way? Do I go in that way? Like, what's the plan? What's the plan to do? And it turns out the plan was just to die, over and over and over and over again, and also get bombed over and over and over and over again. Surprisingly, if I didn't get bombed, I would probably have like a crazy high KD too. But I don't know. I just ran into a ton of CAS elements that were pretty rough to deal with. And yeah. Anyway, what vehicle did you think was going to be a rough grind, but through either luck, skill, or simply misjudgment, turned out to be smooth and fun experience to play in spade? The PLZ 83 is the more recent one. The one that kind of comes to mind though is the Ariete. Back in the day, the Ariete. I think I spaded like 2 of the Arietes or 3 of the Arietes. Obviously you get told all types of things about the Ariete being trash and everything being terrible on it, and how the world falls apart when the Ariete is being used. Like you've really got to you've really got to drown out all that stuff. But when I played it, which was back when it wasn't as bad as it is now, but I actually had a pretty good time in it. Like, it was okay. The round did well. Gen 2 thermals was always nice. It was back when I think commander thermals were a thing. So it had Gen 2 commander thermals, and the lineup wasn't that bad, and you could generally do pretty good. But I think nowadays, that wouldn't be the case. Happens so much with planes though. I get gaslit constantly when it comes to planes. Oh, you won't enjoy the FAU too because it'll just fall apart all the time. I mean, it fell apart like twice when I was like trying to work out where its limits were, and then after that, not an issue. Oh, you'll hate the Mirage 3 because it doesn't have countermeasures. Yeah, but it has 3 insane missiles. Oh, you'll hate the Mirage 3 because it's too heavy. Even though when you get the engine upgrades, it's not heavy at all and has basically the same performance as the 3C with countermeasures at the same BR. Right? Oh, you'll hate you'll hate whatever jet it is because it has this problem with it. Like, most of the time in planes, I really don't have that much of a bad time. It's usually pretty good. And yeah, I constantly get gaslit about stuff like that, which is just kind of nuts. It's just how it goes at the end of the day. It's just one of those things which goes about the place and ain't really fun. In ground vehicles, I usually have a good like barometer for that stuff. In naval, it's just all over the place. Like I never really get any opinions on naval, and I just go into it, with my head cut off, and then what happens happens. So, yeah, it's not too bad. Then we have Sigma Nat. Quite fun. There we go. Future tech talk. How do you think Gaijin, within the limitations of the game engine, can resolve some of the issues with naval, such as massive BR compression, lack of a positioning phase? Lack of a positioning phase? That's an issue that whatever. Utility of coastal vessels past 4-3, and maps mismatching vessel classes without tanking queue times, adding a metric ton of AI ships. You can't. You need to go back in time. Basically, you have to basically go back about 60 years and get people more interested in naval units and their actual use instead of just their history of where they went and where they don't. So you can't fix it, which is unfortunate, but it is how it is. You could add more different spawns for different types of vehicles. You could change up how many capture zones are on the map. You could actually add a battle mode kind of to naval without the convoys on each side, but that kind of already exists in a way. But yeah, those are the things that you do. I don't think naval's in that bad of a place right now. I don't think you need to add, crazy stuff to it. I generally think it's fine. But yeah, I honestly would just add more AI, but you said not to do that. But I don't know why. Do you not want battles to feel big? Do you not want, the presence of crazy stuff happening all the time? Isn't that something that's important or not? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows indeed. I gaslight you about how good all the British ships are. I tell you they're fun when they're only meh. Most of the British ships are pretty meh, but there are some good ones. Then we have Ray's Prisma. Hey TEC, what do you think of the idea of AI spotter planes in the ground game modes? The spawn in at the start of the match and respawn over time, one shot down, and exclusively spot the cap points area for the team that does not hold the cap point. Wait, what? So AI spotter planes in ground spot the caps for the teams that don't hold the cap points. So I think you will give people an incentive to spawn SPA earlier, or give people a reason to use fighters without bombs or rockets. I see so many people in game that only spawn SPA as a last resort, and most of the time they can barely lead the guns on a plane that fly in a straight line. Getting killed by CAS in the game is annoying, but if you spawn an SPA out of spite and then miss every shot, it's just going to gift another plane kill. I would hope that this change would give newer players more practice when aiming. Hope you have a good one. Yeah, you too. Hopefully you have a good one too. I feel like, in terms of this idea, it's not a bad one, but also training areas for War Thunder already exist, and the problem is people just don't use them. So would it be better, instead of like kind of fundamentally changing how the gameplay goes, to try and help people aim better or do that, maybe it would be better to promote those areas, right? Like maybe, what about maybe giving people an incentive to do the custom missions or the test drive stuff? Maybe be like, hey, so if you shoot down 100 targets in test drives, you get like some SL or RP or something like that, Like maybe you could do something as simple as that. Maybe that could be an idea. But yeah, the only reason why I would set something up like that is not to make it so people have stuff to shoot at to aim, but so they could spot enemies and give people a bit of a counterattack idea. So they'd be able to see guys who are just waiting and camping for them to come, Yeah, I think in general, it's not a bad idea. I kind of like it, but if that's the solution or the thing you're trying to look for, I don't think you have to go that kind of crazy on it. Like, I think you could just go for like a standard thing and then just go from there. Like, it wouldn't be too bad. Be pretty simple. Yeah. It's the way I would do it. That's the end of the questions, by the way. So if you have like any other questions or whatever, we can go through them. I know I wasn't as high energy today, but I just feel tired as fuck. I don't know why. The mind is willing, but the body is disagreeing. I don't really know why. We did sort out stuff for next week though, so we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff, which would be good. and we'll be back to our standard schedule. I've sorted out this PC as well, so I have all my actual War Thunder stuff on this PC now, so everything is running at full gas and having a lot of fun with it, so it should be good. And hopefully, kind of going forward, we're gonna have a good time with everything. At least that's the idea. Dev blogs will probably come soon, and gonna have a look at general things, see what's there. Predictions for this year's April Fool's event? Oh yeah, that's not that far off, is it? Mechs. Tank mechs. I think that's the way that they're probably gonna go. They've been sat in the files for like five or 6 years now, so I think it might be time to sort them out to get them in. But they've literally just been sat there not doing too much, so why not get them done? That's the end of the tech talk though. We'll continue streaming, but we'll go into kind of normal mode. Got to play the Rakuten Automat actually, have a bit of fun with it. So should be quite fun. Anyway, so look after yourselves. See you next week, and yeah, peace.